Welcome back, guys. Today we will talk about the basics of PowerShell. PowerShell, developed by Microsoft, is a robust tool for automating tasks and managing configurations. It integrates a command line interface with a scripting language based on the .NET framework. This video will provide an introduction along with some basic use cases for IT professionals and those who want to learn PowerShell to use for scripting tasks. We will also cover Windows PowerShell Room in TryHackMe and solve the questions. All right, let's get started.
Alright, so first let's start with the basic commandlets. The first thing we want to learn when we first start learning PowerShell is to know how to retrieve the available commandlets in PowerShell. To do that, we can use the command get command. This commandlet can be used to retrieve the list of all the available commandlets, functions, aliases, and scripts that can be executed in the current PowerShell session. Memorize this cmdlet get command. So when we execute this, we get an output in the console similar to this one. It's a very long output, but nevertheless, we're going to the very top. So here we have the command type, the name of the commandlet, the version, and the source. What's more important to get familiar with is the commands. These are the available command or cmdlets, or as they call them, commandlets. Note that these commandlets are actually the available commandlets in the current PowerShell session. You can retrieve external commandlets from external sources. We're going to go to that. We're going to get to that in a while. Now, sometimes you want to use filters. Let's say if you go up to the very top, we can see that we have the command type, which tells me whether this command is an alias, function, or an actual commandlet. Sometimes we want to filter this to only display, for example, the aliases. So how can we do that? Again, we're going to use the same commandlet, get command. So get command dash command type, and here we specify the command type. If we're looking for cmdlets, we can just type cmdlet, and we get the cmdlets. Also, we can specify function to display only the functions. All right, so right now we know what are the available commandlets we have in the current PowerShell session. Let's say we want to use one of them, but we don't know how to do it. So we can use what's called as get help. There is a commandlet in PowerShell that allows you to view the basic usage of any single command from here. Let's say you want to get familiar with the update script. So what you're going to do, you're going to type get help and then followed by the name of the command. The name of the command is update script. So I paste update script here and I get basic usage. Do you want to run update help? Downloads the most current, as you can see, this description. It downloads the most current help files for Windows PowerShell modules and install them on your computer. For more information, you can visit the link here. So the update finished, and now we can see the basic usage of update script commandlet. First, we have the name. Next, we have the syntax of using the update script. As you can see, the syntax, you have the opportunity to use these methods, dash name, dash required version, dash maximum version, to retrieve or to help you actually narrow down your options. Another way to use the get help is to use the dash examples. So if you are not clear on how to use the commandlet using the console or using the output displayed by the console about its usage, you can use the dash examples to help you actually get a clearer picture of how to use it by showing examples. So update script, and I can use dash examples. So dash examples gives you examples. So since this is a commandlet that's used just to update the help guides, you can use the different commandlets to show the examples. So for example, let's have a look at get dates. And now we have some examples to work with. Okay, let's go to the very top. First, we have the description. So get date gets the current date and time. And here we have examples. Example 1, get the current date and time. To do that, you just have to type get date, and you will have the current date and time according to your time zone. Example 2, get elements of the current date and time, and here you use the dash display hint. And you can follow with the console output to view other examples. So now we learned how to display the current commands in PowerShell and how to get help regarding the usage of every command along with examples. Okay, so we have get help and we have get command. Earlier we said that this is not all about the commandlets that we can use, because these commands that we have seen earlier are the commands stored in the current PowerShell session. What if you want to retrieve external commands from repositories of PowerShell? To do that, these are called external modules. To find external modules, you have to use the find-module. Find module will allow you to install a collection of commandlets from repositories in the internet, PowerShell repositories. Again, if you don't know how to use the find module, you can use the get help. So here we can use get help followed by the find module and then dash examples to see how we can use find modules. So this is the find module, and this is an alias. An alias is a shortcut for the actual commandlet. So there are no examples found here. Get help cannot find the help files for this CMDlet on this computer. It is displaying only PowerShell help. Alright, so here we have only these two examples. Download and install help files for the module that includes the CMDlet, use update help. Alright, nonetheless, let's go back to find module. And then we can use dash name, followed by the name of the module we would like to download. Sometimes you don't know the actual name of the module that you would like to install externally. So we use a dash name, and then we use a wildcard. So using a wildcard allows us to view all the patterns that include one aspect of the module. So here, let's say I want to view all of the modules that can install which have the PowerShell, which have the keyword PowerShell in the name. So I can use PowerShell and then followed by a wildcard. This allows me here to view all the available external modules that I can install and start with PowerShell in its name. Okay, I'm going to proceed and update this. All right, let's have a look. So here are all the external modules that we can install. All the modules, as you can see, they start with the keyword PowerShell, because that's how I specified this in the command at the very beginning. Here we have the version, the name, the repository. The repository is the name of the repository from which the module will be pulled if I decide, or should I decide, to download the module. And then I have a description for what the module does. For example, the first one, PowerShell YAML. PowerShell module for serializing and deserializing YAML. Right, say that you have decided you want to install one of these modules. So what to do, you can use the install module followed by the name of the module. Okay, let's say you want to install one of these. This one, PowerShell KeyPass, PowerShell module for KeyPass. You have to copy the name and enter. This will allow you to install the module. Just type yes and it will work. Okay, now we know about PowerShell basics. We know how to retrieve the system commands, the commandlets, how to get help about the usage of a commandlet, and how to install modules from an external resource. Now let's talk about using PowerShell to navigate the file system, create files, delete files, and copy files. All right, the first thing you want to learn is to use the CMDlet get child item. So get child item allows you to view the files and directories in the location specified. Look at that. Because I haven't specified the location, it has actually displayed or returned to the console all the files and directories available in the current working directory. The current working directory in my case here is system32. So if I run get child item without specifying the path, that's how it will work. It will return all the files and directories in the current working directory. How about you want to specify the path, but again, you don't know how to do it, so you use get help dash examples. Yes, that's true. Gonna have to put get help at the very first. Okay, so gets the items and child items in one or more specified locations. And we have here the syntax. Most commonly we use the dash path. Dash path allows you to specify the directory where you want to apply the get child item. Let's have an example here. So get child item dash path, and here followed by the path of the location. Let's say it is C Windows users. see Windows users does not exist. How about see Windows? Okay, so when we tap a directory that exists, we see here the files and directories. All right, so that's how you view the current contents of a specified directory. It's actually equivalent to dir in the traditional command shell, or in Linux it is ls. All right, let's move on to the next commandlet. The next commandlet is how to navigate between different directories on the file system. So the commandlet is equivalent to cd in Linux, in Windows, sorry, and also in Linux, by the way. Now, set location. Set location allows you to do just that. Of course, you have to give it the right parameters. So here, yeah, you don't know the parameter, so use get help. And here we have the syntax: set location dash literal path followed by the name of the path, or you can use dash path. Most commonly it is the dash path that's used. Let's say you want to change from C Windows System32 to C Windows. Okay, so set location dash path, and then followed by the actual path. And now the prompt, or the Powershell prompt, changed from Windows System32 into Windows. Okay, next thing you want to learn is how to create, let's say, a directory or file. Now, to create a directory or file, we're gonna have to use the commandlet new item. Again, get help new item. It just creates a new item. Most commonly, we have to specify the dash path where we are creating the item, right? Whether it is directory or a file, where are we going to create it? Specify the destination. We do that using the dash path. And we have another important parameter to specify here is what are we creating? Are we creating a file or are we creating a directory? To specify that, we can use the dash item type. Let's have an example. First, let's see what we have. So get okay. Let's see here what are the available directories we can work with here. Okay, let's move to C, set location C, and then we execute get child item. Now we have users. Let's now set the location to users. Okay, what do we have under the users? So we have my username. Let's move to that location. And then let's see what else we have here. Let's move on to, let's change destination to desktop, and we start working with files there. So basically set location here and then desktop. Looks like I don't have desktop here. Let's change the downloads for simplicity. We're gonna waste time working with these names. Okay, now get child item. Okay, so that's what we have now. Now let's say we want to create a new item. So new item where dash path, and that's my path. Specify the full path. And next we want to do dash item type. Let's say I'm creating a directory. Yep, we forgot to specify what are we creating. So that's the path, and then since I'm creating a directory, I'm going to put the directory name, say test name. So now a new directory created called test name. I can now set the location to that directory. So get child item to verify that. We have a new directory called test name. Now we can set the location to test name. And now we can work inside this directory. Let's say now you want to create a file and store it inside this directory. So what we're going to do, again, we're going to use new item. So new item here will be, instead of directory in the item type, we're going to set it as file. And here, the destination is specified. The only thing left to specify here is the file name. So let's say it is test.txt. And now I have a new file called test.txt. Verify that. It's already verified actually. But to make the most use of the available commandlets we are learning, we're going to execute get child item, and now we have the new file created. Now, let's say you want to create another one here. I'm going to create another one because we're going to remove this later. Okay. Now we have two files. Next, let's say you want to remove the item. You created an item, a file. Now you want to remove it. Simple. Remove item cmdelete, and then followed by the path. Where are we applying the change? And then specify the file. So the file here is test. Let's see if the file has been removed. So it has been removed. Now let's talk about copying and moving files. To copy files, we can use the copy item. Now, when copying files, you have to specify the source from which, or the location from which you are copying the file, and the destination, the location to which you are copying the file. So let's say the path here will be the current working directory. For simplicity, I'm going just to specify it. And then destination. The destination here specifies where I am copying this file. Let's copy just to downloads. A parameter cannot be found that matches parameter name okay, so we have a typo here. An item with a specified name already exists. That's true. Let's move it to that directory. And now I suppose that the directory name test name has been copied to that directory. We can verify this by using get child item dash path followed by this directory to make sure that we have correctly copied the item. And now we have test name here. We're supposed to have this one. Looks like, yeah, this directory does exist here because we have just copied it from the actual path or the source path to the desired path. Now let's say you want to move the item. Moving an item means you are not copying the item from the source location, you are actually removing it from the source location and putting it in another place or in another directory. So to move an item, you can use move item. And then dash path. Let's say you want to move the test1 file. So we move it from here, test1.txt dash destination, and we move it to that location here. Actually, let's put the test1 file under test name. All right, now let's have a look at the contents of this directory here. Let's see if test1 does exist. Get child item dash path, and let's copy this path. Now, as you can see, guys, the file disappeared from the original source location because we have actually moved it using the move item. Last thing you want to do or you want to learn is how to retrieve the contents of a specific file. Display the contents of a specific file. Just as in Linux we use cat, we can also use another cmd here called get content. As you can see, it asks you to supply the path. Where are you actually, what is the file you want to display the contents? Let's say it is the file found here. Okay, I'm not going to use this one. So let's get content and then followed by the actual path. This is the actual path. Cannot find path. See users, downloads. Indeed, because we have actually moved the file from this location, we're going to have to specify the new location. The new location is under, it's without the downloads. It's just, yeah, move this. Now, there is nothing returned to the console because the file is actually empty. That's the actual CM that we can use to retrieve the contents or display the contents of a specific text file. Now, let's talk about some commandlets that are used to filter and sort data. The first one we have is sort object. The sort object commandlet allows you to sort data or files based on specific properties, such as the length, the file size, the date and time, and so on. So let's have an example. For example, here, let's move on to another directory using the set location. And we're going to move to, let's say, dash path. move on to the C directory for now. And from here, get child item. Okay, let's set the path to users. And then to downloads. Document is fine. Okay, what do we have in here? Okay, so we have nothing. Let's move on to download. Maybe we have some files in there to deal with. Okay, so we have some files. Okay, so if we use get child item, we can list the current files we have in the current directory. Now, if we pipe this to sort object, and let's say we want to list the files in the directory and sort them by the size. So we use the length. Length is a property of these files. So you know, these files are treated as objects in PowerShell, and objects have properties. The property we are using as criteria for the sorting process is the length. So we sort them based on their size. And as you can see now, previously in the unsorted state, we had this file at the very first, the move sync, and then after we sorted them based on their length, you can see the order has actually changed. So we have this file, temporary file at the very first. So sort length can be used for such purpose. Now, if you want to know what else you can sort, what other criteria we can sort based on, you can use get help again. Make get help your friend when dealing with any command length where you want to extend your your knowledge about it. So sort object. Now we can have the syntax here. So this is the syntax, and after the sort object, we have to specify here the property. You can sort objects by a single property or multiple properties. Multiple properties use hash tables to sort in ascending order. So you can also use multiple properties instead of one. Now, if you want examples, you can use dash examples. In dash examples, we get to see how this works. If we scroll all the way up, let's see here. Okay, so the first example, sort the current directory by name. So to do that, as you can see, they used get child item, specified the path. We want to list the files in the current path, which happens to be c/test, and then they piped the actual command or the output to sort object. Now, when you don't specify a property for the objects, they are sorted by name alphabetically. As you can see, the files now are sorted alphabetically. Now, another example here, sort the current directory by file length, and that's what we just did a while ago. We use the length property to sort the file using their size. As you can see now, that's how they are sorted. This is an ascending order from the smallest into the largest. Another example is, as you can see, sort processes by memory usage, and that's a use case for IT professionals. If you want to take a look at the processes, so here they use the commandlet get process. And get process allows you to view the current processes, running processes. Now that's not enough. The output of that commandlet is piped to sort object. And here we are sorting the processes based, as you can see, on the memory usage. The property for the memory usage is WS based on this column. And then again, it's piped to another commandlet to select a specific object and list the last 5 processes. Okay, now let's work with another filtering and sorting commandlet. The other one is where or sort object. We finished from sort object. Now we're gonna move on to where objects. In where object, in here what we do actually, we filter objects based on specific conditions. It's very much similar to the where in the SQL. So where object allows us to select a specified set of the objects based on a specified condition or a specified criteria. Again here, what is the criteria? We are using the properties of the objects. The objects here are the files, and the properties, they are the length, the size, and so on, the name. So for example here, if we go back to get child item, we have these files. Okay, now if you want to select specific file, let's create a, or let's leave this as is. Let's say we want to select the files where the extension ends with temp. So basically to do that, we can use get child item, pipe the output to where object. And then we specify the property based on which we are actually doing the filtering. So property, And our property here is, we're going to put it between two double quotes. The property here is the extension, sorting based on the file, filtering based on the file extension. And then the extension here, after I've specified the property, you have to use the comparison operator. The comparison operators are actually one of these. So you have not equal, greater than or equal, less than or equal. Very much similar to other programming languages. So after having specified the property here, we're gonna have to specify the comparison operator. Okay, so now we are filtering based on the extension. What's the extension? Is it text? Is it PHP? Is it another extension? That's why we're gonna use, or why we need to use the comparison operators. So here dash equal, we can use the equal, and between double quotes we specify the desired extension. So here, because I only have one file, I'm going to use the temp, and as you can see, the list has been shortened only to one file, which is the temporary file. Okay, you can also use another comparison or other comparison operators from the list of comparison operators. You can take a look at the Powershell documentation for the full list. Now we talked about where objects and sort objects. The next thing we want to talk about is select object. Select object is another filtering CMD that's used to select specific properties. Now here we are selecting the objects based on the properties. For example, let's go back to getChildItem. We have 3 files. Now if we use getChildItem and pipe the output to select object, here we have to, instead of specifying the property as we did earlier, we're gonna have to use the properties directly in the commandlet. For example, what the properties we have here? We have the name, we have length, we have last write time, we have mode. Let's select the name and length, name, and we separate them by comma. Okay, so here we are actually displaying or filtering the files based on these properties. So all the files or all the objects in the current directory downloads will be displayed along with their name and length properties. So here we are filtering the properties, the actual properties, not the values or the objects. I can also select to show only the last write time. Let's have a look at this. So if we select here only last write time, as you can see, I only show the last write time property along with the values of the objects. So remember, the select object is used to filter the properties. Okay. And the next thing we want to learn here is how to extract string patterns from files. To illustrate the example of using select string or the example of extracting text patterns from files, let's have a practical example here. So, in get process commandlet, we get the list of the running processes. Okay, now let's say I want to save this output to a file. So I pipe this into a CMDlet named out file. In out file, I send the output of a command here into a text file. So it takes one parameter, which is file path. I specified the file path. Of course, I don't have a file yet. So what I will do here, I will create a new file using the new item CMDlet. Specify the path to be under this directory. And here I name the file processes. Okay, and then I have to specify what is the type of the item I'm creating here. In my case, it is just a file. So dash item it's going to be file. So now I have a new file named processes. Now it is empty. So I'm going to use get processes or get process, pipe the output of get process into out file, and then specify the file path. And here, this is my file. Now, to verify that I have transferred the output of get process into process.txt file, I'm going to use get or the type command. The type is actually a command used in the traditional Windows command shell, but in PowerShell you have an equivalent, which is get content, and the file is processes, and that's now verified. As you can see, the file now contains the running processes. All right, we want to verify if For example, a specified process is running. To verify this, we're gonna have to use select string. So again, get content, display the contents of the file, and then pipe this to select string. In select string, I specify the path of the file. In my case, it's actually specified. So I'm gonna just cancel the path for now, and then I only specify the pattern. All right, here between the double quotes, I put the pattern I'm looking for. For example, let's say I'm looking for the Chrome process. I put Chrome, and see now I have listed all the running processes where Chrome is the actual name, or where Chrome, the keyword Chrome, starts as the name of the process, because here I use a wildcard. Any keyword that comes before the wildcard means that I want to find all the processes or all the objects where this keyword comes first. If I put the wildcard at the very first here, so the wildcard comes to the left and the Chrome comes to the right, here what I'm looking for, I'm looking to list the objects where the beginning or the name doesn't matter how it starts, but it must end with Chrome. Let's have a look at this example. So if we swap positions here and use wildcard at the very first, so now here, as you can see, the string Chrome is not a valid regular expression. Okay, so I have to maybe use it only at the very end, or I can just use Chrome, or you could use chrome.exe, nothing as chrome.exe. You can look for another process. For example, I have PowerShell running, so PowerShell. As you can see now, I list the running process. All right, now let's move on to another important aspect of using PowerShell for system administration and configuration management, which is actually listing the system information. This is also very important for penetration testers when they are conducting the enumeration stage. So now, let's have a look at one of the most important commandlets to list the system information. We can get a detailed output of the system information using a commandlet named get computer info. It is the equivalent of system info. However, the command in the PowerShell returns more extensive details about the system. As you can see here, this is my own system, by the way. And another aspect here we can actually use is to have a look at the examples that we can use with this command. So get help and then dash examples. Okay, so here the example 1, get all computer properties. That's what we just did. And the example 2, get all computer version properties. So here we can specify all the properties or all the computer information where there is a version to the property. So use dash property version, and we can see here everything that has to do with the version of every single thing, Windows, the BIOS, and other aspects. All right, now here we retrieve basic system information. How about managing the users, which is another important aspect of system administration and even enumeration? We use the get local user. Right, so in get local user, we can manage the user account, and we can list all user accounts on the system. As you can see, we have the username, whether the account status, whether it is enabled or not, and we have the description. So these are the current users on my system, for example. And again, we can use get help. See if there is anything else we can do with the commandlet other than just using it in the raw form. So in example 1, it's the raw, here get an account by using its name. So here we can filter the output based on the account name using the dash name property. So these are the properties: name, enabled, and description. And based on that logic, actually, what we can do, we can filter the accounts based on the name, the status, and the description. Here's another example: get an account that is connected to a Microsoft account. Get local user dash name, and here Microsoft account / username at Outlook. And the last one, get an account that has the specified SID. So SID is another property that you can use to filter the accounts. If you have a SID in mind, you can see what the account that holds or owns this SID by using the dash SID with the commandlet. All right, another aspect here of managing system is getting to know the network configurations. In Windows and Linux, we use ifconfig or ipconfig, but in PowerShell, you can still use that. But if you want to harness the power of the commandlets, you want to use the corresponding command responsible for listing the network configurations. So get net IP configuration. So now I expect to have detailed information about the network interfaces on the system, the IP addresses, and the default gateways. So let's take a look at this. This is the interface, and that's my Wi-Fi name. And you see here other aspects such as the DNS I'm using and the default gateway. And that's the IP address I have. And that's not important information because all home networks have this internal IP address. Okay, so sometimes we want detailed information about the IP addresses of other network interfaces. Now, this is the active network interface, but that doesn't mean that there are not other network interfaces. If you want to list them, you're gonna have to use get net IP address. Now I have the IP addresses of all other network interfaces, and that is very beneficial when you are doing lateral movement and network pivoting during your penetration testing engagements. You want to see if the machine you are actually conducting the pen testing for is connected or has interfaces connected to other networks, so that you can pivot and do lateral movement to these machines. Now let's talk about some useful functions of using or use cases of PowerShell. The first thing you want to learn is how to download files from the web using PowerShell. Well, that process consists of multiple steps. The first thing we want to do here is to define a parameter that will store the actual request. Did I say sending a request or downloading a file? Anyway, let's first talk about sending a web request. Okay, so let's say you want to send a web request to google.com. The first thing you want to do is to create a parameter for storing the response. Let's say the parameter name is response. And here we define the commandlet that is used to send the web request. It is actually invoke web request. Through this commandlet, you can send web requests to various websites, and also you can use that to interact with the web. In my case here, I need to define the URL, so -URI, and between double quotes, I define or I plug in the URL. So in my case, it's HTTPS, or I can just use my website. Okay, once I do that, I assume that the request has been sent. Now, to take a look at the request, I'm gonna need to take a look at the contents of this, variable in PowerShell. Variables in PowerShell have this format. It's preceded by or with a $sign. To display the contents of this variable, all I have to do is to put the variable name and content. Now, as you can see, I have the request. The output of the request has been sent. This is the response that my website has sent to me. Now, if I want a more actually good look here, what I can do, I can use response.content and pipe this to a file. Out file path, and here let's plug in this path, and let's say web output. Okay, now if I take a look at the contents of the web output using get content web output, I have the same output here. Now I can take a look at this. So now, as you can see, guys, this is the output in Notepad. The output sent through using my own site. Now, if you want to specify a post request to send, all you have to do is to include dash method. The dash method will allow you to specify the request type you are sending. In my case here, if I want to send a post request, I specify so in post, using post. And this way I send a post request. All right, now let's talk about how to download a file from the web. Let's go back, and now we're gonna use a method to download a file from the web. To download a file from the web, we have to specify the parameters. We have to specify the URL and the output file, right? First, let's define the URL using a variable named URL. Say I want to download a file from my website, and let's say I want to download the web page. That's the URL, and next the output will be the file or the path to the file in my local machine that will store the downloaded file. So in my case here, let me use the current directory and say it is file text. Now it's time to use the actual commandlet that will download the file. So the commandlet is the same that we used before to send a get and post request. It is the invoke web request. Invoke web request dash URI. Instead of putting the bare form of the URL here in the naked form, all I have to do is to use this just the variable URL dash out file output. Let's see here. Now, if I take a look at the contents of the directory, get child item, I can see a new file. This is the file actually I have created. Now, there is a size beside this file, and that's because now the file has actual contents. You can display the contents of this file using two methods. First, using the cmdlet get content file, or you can just use get item and the variable name output. So here we verify that the file has been downloaded. Another practical example of interacting with the web is extracting or scraping web page data. An example will be extracting links from a web page. Let's define a variable here, response, okay, and send a get request again to my web page. Invoke web request dash URI, and here between two double quotes I put in the URL of my site. Now I sent a get request, and the output of the request has been stored in the response variable. I can take a look at the response.content. All right, so my site has responded with this output. All right, next thing I want to do is to extract the links. So instead of content, I use links. Take a look here. All the links now have been extracted. Now, as you can see, with every link, there are certain properties, such as the inner HTML, the text of the link, and the actual link itself. If you want to extract only the links, you can use this property in select object commandlet. So response links, and then we pipe this select object and use outer HTML. And now I've extracted actually all the links. You can also send custom HTTP headers, but that will actually make the tutorial more advanced. We want this to stay as a beginner friendly, so you can start using PowerShell in your day-to-day tasks. Now the next thing you want to do is to test availabilities of websites. For example, let's say you don't want to use ping, you want to use PowerShell to test the connectivity to a specific site. The first thing you want to do is to create a variable to store the site name. Let's say it is again my site. And here we have double quotes. Next thing I want to do is to again create a variable that stores the response of the connection, or the actual attempt to connect to my site. Again, it is a response. And here I use the commandlet test connection dash. Here I specify the computer name. Since I'm not testing a computer, I'm actually testing a server on the net, which is represented by the URL. I'm going to use computer name, and the name here will be the URL that I have specified. It could be an actual computer name in your network, or it could be a URL that you can specify. Let's see here. Testing connection to computer failed. No such host is known. In hope that it will recognize it as a DNS name. Next, we execute this. Looks like it is working. All right, now let's display the contents of the response file. As you can see here, guys, this is my URL, and these are the responses, the actual packets. Now the next thing you want to learn is how to upload a file to a web server. To upload a file to a web server, you have first to specify the file that you want to upload, the website or the link through which you will be uploading the file, and then you use invoke web request. An example, let's say here, get child item. Let's say I'm going to upload this file, right? This is just an example. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to use a variable file equal, and I plug in the path to the file. Okay, I defined the file now. Next, I want to define the URL. It is the actual path to the upload page, right? Assumingly, this will not be a real example. I'm going to assume that it is this URL /upload, and then it's time to use or to send the post request with the upload. So basically use response, and the response, again, I invoke web request -URI. Here I have the URL defined, and dash method will be post dash infile. In infile, I define the file that will be uploaded here. I just stored this file in a variable named file. Okay, dash content type. Let's say it is multi-part form data, because that's the content type you want to use when you are uploading a file. So multi-part /form data. Of course, the connection was aborted because this is not a valid URL. So make sure to use the valid URL, a URL to an upload page. After you have done so, all you have to do is to take a look at the results. Take a look at the results. You want to see if the file has been successfully uploaded. To do that, you use response.status description. But it's empty because nothing has been uploaded. Okay, remember that we talked about the processes earlier and how to retrieve the list of running processes, but we did not talk about services. You can use getService to retrieve the list of running services on your system. As you can see, you have the service name, the description, and the status. Now, sometimes you want to start, stop, or configure a service using PowerShell. So, for example, let's have a look at one of the services here. Let's have a look at this one. WMAN SVC, Windows Management Service. The status is stopped. Let's say we're gonna have this and use get service name. That's the name of the service I'm interested in. Select object name status. Here you can see the service name, the status of the service, and the name of the service. If I want to start the service, all I have to do is to use start service dash name of the service, and here I put in the service name. I'm not going to start this. Vice versa, if you want to stop the service, all you have to do is to use stop service followed by the service name. All right. Now, let's say that you want to set the service to run when the system starts, or to set the service startup type to automatic. So use set service here, dash name, the name of the service, and then dash startup type will be automatic. Once you execute this, the service now will start automatically. All right. Now we talked about processes, services. How about we talk now about scheduled tasks? Okay. So how are we gonna create a new scheduled task? That's an example. First, we define a variable. Again, let's name it as an action. And here in the action, we use the commandlet new scheduled task. New scheduled task action. That's the commandlet responsible for creating a new scheduled task. Dash execute. It will execute, for example, notepad.exe, right? Okay. The next thing you want to do is to define a trigger when creating a scheduled task. Beside creating the task name and the executable that will work or run, you're gonna have to create a trigger. When does this task run, or when will the task run? So the trigger will be new, again, scheduled looks like here we have a problem. Okay, new scheduled task, but instead of action here I use trigger dash. Let's say we're gonna trigger this daily and at maybe 10 a.m. And the last thing we want to do is to officially register the task using register scheduled task dash task name. Let's give it a name here. Let's say it is notepad test. The action that we'll take, it is already defined in the action variable. The trigger, it's also has already been defined using the trigger variable. Hit enter, and now it is created. Now let's now list the already available scheduled tasks to verify that we have scheduled the task successfully. These are the scheduled tasks. Now we can look for the notepad here using where object. So what are the properties here? Task name, state, and task path. Let's use now task name in a where object. Task name, like, let's say, notepad. A parameter cannot be found that matches parameter name task name. Let's see here. Looks like here we're gonna have to use dash property. Remember the dash property. And here task name. Okay, let's see here. A parameter cannot be found that matches the parameter name property. Again, we have a typo. And now we have actually done this successfully. So here we have the task name, notepad test, and the state is ready. So we have actually created the task successfully. Now, if you want to remove the task or unregister the task, all I have to do is to use unregister scheduled task, specify the task name. Task name is already here, notepad test. Dash confirm false. The term unregistered scheduled task isn't recognized as the name of a CND. Let's have a look here. Okay, I found it. So it is again a typo. Alright, let's have a look again at the list of scheduled tasks and filter for the notepad. As you can see, we didn't get any output because the notepad has been removed from the list of scheduled tasks. Last thing I want to talk about is how to create users, add users, and disable users. So to create a new user, we use new local user, CMD-let. We define the username or the name of the user. Let's say it is my name. Okay. And then define the password. So the best practice is to, when creating a password, is to use the convert to secure string. This allows you to store the password maybe in a secure form, or maybe just store it as a plain text. So convert to secure string, and here I define my password. Let's say it is test as plain text. I'm going to use the dash first option. So I specified now the name, the password, okay, full name now, because it's going to ask about the full name. Test. Dash description. Let's say it is a test account. Convert to secure string. A parameter cannot be found that matches parameter name as plain text. It is plain text. Access denied. I don't have privileges to create a new user because of the session I'm running here. So, but remember, make sure that to run PowerShell as administrator when you want to create a new user. Now, if you want to add a user to the administrators group, all you have to do is to use add local group member, CMD-let. Slash group, define the group that you want the member to be added to. In my case, let's say it is administrators. And then dash member. Who is the member? Who is going to be? Put in the username. So if the name you selected earlier was anything else you put here, just put it right here. Let's say. And execute. Now, if you want to disable the user account that you have created, you can use disable local user name and use the name you mentioned, or use the name that you used when you first created the account, and execute. All right, now the last thing I want to do here is to go to TryHackMe and show you guys the room that I'm going to solve, beside everything we talked about. I'm not going to solve every single question, but I'm going to show you guys how to do it. Task 2, nothing to do here. What do we call the advanced approach we use to develop a PowerShell? It is object-oriented because it treats the files and directories as objects. That's why we call it object-oriented. PowerShell basics. How would you retrieve a list of commands that start with the verb remove? Remember at the very earlier of this video, we said that we can retrieve the list of the cmdlets of the commands in PowerShell using the get command. Now, in case we're looking for a specific name, we use the dash name, and then we use the remove. That's the actual name we're looking for with the wildcard at the very end. What cmdlet has its traditional counterpart, echo, as an alias? Now, again, we said that to get the current available aliases, all you have to do is to use get alias. Let's proceed and run PowerShell and use get alias. You get all the aliases. We're looking for echo, so here pipe this to maybe where object dash property, like the property will be the name, right? So the name, let's see, it is name, exactly. The property here is name, like looking for echo here. Okay, so as you can see, the alias for write output is echo. And what's the command to retrieve some example usage for cmdlet new local user? We extensively talked about this, and we said that we can use get help with dash examples. Task 4. What cmdlet can you use instead of the traditional Windows command type? It is get content. What PowerShell command would you use to display the content of the C user's directory? Again, it is get child item followed by the path. We also talked about this. How many items are displayed by the command described in the previous question? Let's copy this, execute here. We can see we have a total 4 items. That's where the answer comes from. Task 5. How would you retrieve the items in the current directory with size greater than 100? We also discussed the use of where object and the length as a property with the operator greater than. That's how we do it. Task 6. Other than your current user and the default administrator account. Okay, what other users enabled on the target machine? All right, let's use get local user here. You can see that other than the said users in the description, we have this user P1R4T3 with a description that says a merry life with a short one. User and description. Now, a small challenge to put it all together. This shady lad that we just found hidden among the local users has his own home folder in C users directory. Can you navigate the file system and find the hidden treasure inside this pirate's home? Okay, let's now navigate to this directory first. You're gonna have to set location. Okay, the next thing, get child item to list the current contents of the directory. Please then set location. Want to navigate to the user directory, this one. Again, get child item. And let's see, we have this directory, hidden treasure chest. So let's have a look at this thing. Set location. Get child item. And we have big treasure file. Let's have a look at this file. And we have the challenge flag. Task 7, real-time analysis. In the previous task, you found a marvelous treasure carefully hidden in the target machine. What's the hash of the file that contains it? So we're gonna have to extract the hash of this file. Easy, get file hash. And the file name here, it's big treasure. And that's the hash of the file. What property retrieved by default by get net TCP connection contains information about the process that has started the connection. So basically, get net TCP connection, as we stated, it actually lists all the current network connections. It's the equivalent of netstat, output of the get net TCP connection. And here we can see a couple of columns such as the local address, local port, remote address, similar to the output we get when we execute netstat. Here we have the column owning process, which contains the process ID of every single process initiating the connection. That's the answer for the question. And the last question is, it's time for another small challenge. Some vital service has been installed on this pirate ship to guarantee that the captain can always navigate safely. But something is not working as expected, and the captain wonders why. Investigating, they find out the truth. At last, the service has been tampered with. The shady lad from before has modified the display name to reflect his very own motto, the same that he put in his user description. If you go up, and we'll take a look at the description of the user here, that was the description, right? He used the same motto in the display name of the services. So what I did, I executed this command, get service, to retrieve the list of the services. And then I used the where object that we have actually explained to filter the list of the services only to those where the name starts with P, right? And here, lastly, the select object name and display name to display the service name and display name. And that's how I got this answer. That answer. This one. And task 8. Looks like we have nothing here. We have only this. What's the syntax to execute the command get service on a remote computer named Royal Fortune? So here, to execute remote commands, we use invoke command, which is used for PowerShell remoting. Simply invoke command allows you to manage computers remotely. So all you have to do is to type in the commandlet invoke command dash computer name followed by the name of the computer. In our case here, it's Royal Fortune, and then dash script block allows you to specify the command that you want to execute on the other computer. In this case here, this command will execute get service on the computer Royal Fortune. And that concludes all of today's video.